I was kneeling on the bathroom floor of the country club when my future sister-in-law kicked the stall door open. I'd been sick for 20 minutes. The chemo from 2 days before was still working through my system, and I'd barely made it off the terrace before my stomach gave out. I was sweating through my dress, my wig slightly askew, trying to breathe through the nausea. Cassidy stood there with her bridesmaids clustered behind her like a pack of wolves. She was holding her phone up, recording. "Oh my God," she said, laughing. "Is this the sister? The sick one?" I looked up at her. I didn't have the energy to speak. "Babe," she called over her shoulder. "Your sister's in here being dramatic again. She's literally ruining my engagement party." My brother appeared in the doorway. Derek, 26 years old, my best friend since we were kids, the person who drove me to my first infusion. He looked at me on the floor. Then he looked at Cassidy. "Jen," he said quietly, "can you just go home?" I stared at him. "You're making this about you," he continued. "Today is supposed to be about us." Cassidy smiled. It was the kind of smile that made my skin crawl even through the fog of nausea. "Yeah," she said sweetly. "Maybe just Uber home. We have, 100 people out there." They left me on the floor. I sat there for another 5 minutes, listening to the laughter and music bleeding through the walls. Then I cleaned myself up as best I could, fixed my wig in the mirror, and walked out through the service exit, so no one would see me leave. My name is Jennifer Caruso. I'm 32 years old. 2 weeks ago, I had a future. I had a brother who loved me. I had a treatment plan that was working. I had a company I'd spent 7 years building from nothing, and I had enough money in the bank to never worry about medical bills. What I didn't have was anyone who knew that the consulting firm I owned was actually a holdings company with 12 subsidiaries, including the commercial real estate firm where Cassidy worked as a junior agent and the luxury car dealership where her father was the regional manager. I'd kept my business private. I didn't use my last name on the corporate filings. I used my mother's maiden name, Costello. I didn't attend public events. I didn't post on LinkedIn. I just worked, invested, acquired, and stayed quiet. My parents died in a car accident when I was 24. They left Derek and me everything. A paid-off house, life insurance, and a small portfolio of rental properties my father had bought in the 90s. Derek was 18. He wanted to go to college, travel, live his life. I told him to do it. I'd handle everything. So I did. I taught myself real estate law. I refinanced the properties, bought 3 more, then sold them all at the peak of the market in 2019. I took that money and started acquiring struggling businesses, things with good bones and bad management. I fixed them quietly, installed competent people, took my profit, and moved on. By the time I was 30, I had more money than I knew what to do with. By the time I was 31, I had stage 2 breast cancer. Derek didn't know about the money. He thought I was doing okay. He thought I worked in consulting. He thought the house we grew up in, which I'd signed over to him 2 years ago, was just something I could afford because I'd been smart with the inheritance. I never corrected him. I didn't need him to know. I just needed him to be happy. And he was, until he met Cassidy. She started small. At first, it was just little comments. "Oh, you're still renting? I thought consultants made bank." Or, "Derek says you're not really a business person, just freelance." I let it go. I was tired. The treatments were taking everything out of me. But at the engagement party, she stepped it up. She'd introduced me to her parents as Derek's poor sister. She'd made a toast where she mentioned how lucky Derek was to have moved past the tragedy of his childhood. She'd seated me at a table in the back, away from family, next to a couple I didn't know. And then, when I got sick, she recorded it. I found out later that she'd posted it to her Instagram story. Just a quick clip of me on the bathroom floor with the caption, "When you can't handle your champagne woozy face, see no evil monkey." It got deleted after an hour, but not before 60 people saw it. I went home that night and sat in my kitchen, staring at nothing. Derek didn't call. I waited 2 days. Then I called him. "Hey," he said. His voice was flat. "I'm sorry I got sick," I said. "Yeah." "Cassidy's still upset." I paused. "Derek, I have cancer." "I know. But you knew this was a big day for us. You could have just, I don't know, stayed home if you weren't feeling well." I closed my eyes. Do you want me at the wedding? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. Cassidy thinks it might be better if you sit it out. She doesn't want any drama. Okay, I said. I hung up. I didn't cry. I'd stopped crying somewhere around my fourth infusion. Crying took energy I didn't have. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the files. Cassidy worked for Skyline Realty Group. I'd acquired Skyline 8 months ago when the previous owner decided to retire. It was a profitable company, but it had issues. High turnover, shady commission structures, some minor ethics complaints that had been swept under the rug. I'd installed a new CEO, a woman named Diane Tran, who I trusted to clean things up quietly. She reported to me monthly. I opened the last report and scrolled through the staff list. There she was, Cassidy Brennan, junior agent, hired 6 months ago. Her performance reviews were mediocre. 2 client complaints about misrepresentation. 1 formal warning for posting client property photos without permission. I kept scrolling. Her father, George Brennan, worked at Apex Auto Group. I'd acquired Apex 2 years ago. He was the regional manager. Decent sales numbers, but there were notes in his file about aggressive tactics and a pending HR review for workplace behavior. I sat back. I didn't want revenge. I'm not wired that way, but I wanted the truth. I wanted to understand who these people were and whether my brother knew who he was marrying. So I called Diane. Diane Tran was 58 years old, a former federal prosecutor who'd moved into corporate management after her kids went to college. She didn't tolerate bullshit. Jennifer, she said when she picked up. How are you feeling? I've been better, I said. I need to ask you about someone. I told her about Cassidy. I didn't mention the engagement party. I just said I had concerns about her conduct and wanted to know if there was anything I should be aware of. Diane was quiet for a moment. Let me pull her file, she said. I'll call you back. She called me back 30 minutes later. Okay, she said. So, Cassidy Brennan, hired through a referral. Her father knows one of our old brokers. She's been here 6 months, and she's not great. She's missed 3 closings because she didn't read the contracts properly. She's listed properties at the wrong price twice. And last month, she told a client that a property had new appliances when it didn't. The client almost sued. Why is she still employed? Because she hasn't done anything fireable yet. She's just incompetent. She's been watching her. What about her father? George Brennan. Yeah, he's on my list. He's got a harassment complaint from one of the junior salespeople at Apex. She says he made inappropriate comments about her appearance and tried to pressure her into going to dinner with him. I felt something cold settle into my chest. Is it being investigated? It is now. I flagged it last week. Good. Keep me updated. I hung up and sat there for a long time. The wedding was in 6 weeks. Derek called me once in that time. It was short. Cassidy's parents want to meet you, he said. Why? Because you're my sister. They're trying to be nice. I didn't believe that, but I agreed. We met at a restaurant in the city. Cassidy's parents, George and Linda, were already seated when I arrived. Cassidy and Derek were there too. George was loud. He had that overly friendly car salesman energy, the kind that made you feel like you were being sold something even when you weren't. Jennifer, he boomed, standing up to shake my hand. Finally, we've heard so much about you. I smiled politely and sat down. Linda was quieter. She looked tired. She ordered a glass of wine before the waiter even brought menus. Cassidy was on her phone. So, George said, leaning back in his chair. Derek tells me you're a consultant. What kind of consulting? Business operations, I said. Ah, so like, helping companies run better. Something like that. That's great. That's great. I'm in sales myself. Cars. You ever need a new car, you come see me. I'll get you a deal. Thanks, I said. He kept talking. About sales. About his career. About how proud he was of Cassidy for making it in real estate. She's a natural, he said. Just like her old man. Cassidy smiled without looking up from her phone. Derek was quiet. He looked uncomfortable. Halfway through dinner, George leaned in. So Jennifer, he said, Derek mentioned you've been having some health issues. That's tough. But hey, you're young. You'll bounce back. I nodded. And honestly, he continued, It's probably good you're taking a step back from work right now. Less stress, you know. Cassidy's always saying how stress is the real killer. Cassidy looked up. I didn't say that. Sure you did. Last week, you were talking about how your coworker had a breakdown because she couldn't handle the pressure. I looked at Cassidy. She looked at me. That's not what I said, she muttered. George laughed. Well, anyway, point is, health comes first. Right, Jennifer? Right, I said. I excused myself before dessert. Derek followed me outside. Jen, wait. I turned around. What's wrong? He asked. Nothing. You barely said anything in there. I'm tired, Derek. He looked at me. Really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. Are you okay? He asked. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to tell him everything. About the company. About Cassidy's work record. About the fact that his future father-in-law was under investigation for harassment. But I didn't. Because I realized, standing there, that he wasn't asking because he cared. He was asking because he felt obligated. I'm fine, I said. Congratulations on the wedding. I walked away. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I see every single comment, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the story. I went back to work the next day. Not physically. I was still too weak for that, but I started making calls. I called Diane first. I need a full audit, I said. Skyline Realty. Every agent. Every transaction from the last year. I want to know if there's anything we missed. You think something's wrong? I think I need to be sure. She didn't ask questions. She just said, I'll have it on your desk in a week. Then I called Marcus. Wait, no. I called Edward. Edward Liu. He was the head of HR at Apex Auto Group. I'd hired him a year ago specifically because he didn't tolerate misconduct. Edward, I said, the harassment complaint against George Brennan. Where are we on that? We're interviewing witnesses this week. If the complaint holds, he's gone. Good. Let me know the moment you have a resolution. He paused. Can I ask why you're personally interested in this? Because he's about to become my brother's father-in-law, I said. And I need to know who my brother is marrying into. Understood. I hung up and opened my laptop. The audit from Diane arrived 5 days later. It was 70 pages long. I made coffee, sat down at my kitchen table, and started reading. By page 12, I found the first problem. Cassidy had closed a deal 4 months ago, a small commercial property. But according to the audit, she'd misrepresented the zoning status to the buyer. The buyer hadn't caught it until after closing. They threatened to sue. Skyline settled quietly, paying out $20,000 to make it go away. Cassidy's supervisor had noted it in her file, but nothing had been done. I kept reading. Page 30, another deal. Cassidy had listed a residential property and told the buyer it was move-in ready. It wasn't. The inspection revealed black mold, faulty wiring, and a roof that needed to be replaced. The buyer walked. The seller lost 3 months of market time. Page 47, a client complaint. Cassidy had shown up to a meeting 2 hours late, blamed traffic, and then spent the entire meeting on her phone. The client requested a new agent. Page 63, a formal warning from Diane herself. Cassidy had posted photos of a luxury property on her Instagram without permission from the seller. The seller was a public figure who'd specifically requested privacy. Skyline had to issue an apology. I sat back. This wasn't incompetence. This was a pattern. She didn't care about the work. She cared about looking like she was successful. I picked up my phone and called Diane. I read the audit, I said. And why is she still employed? Diane sighed. Honestly, because her supervisor didn't want to deal with the paperwork. And because she's never done anything quite bad enough to justify termination. She's just consistently mediocre. That needs to change, I said. You want me to fire her? No, not yet. I want you to document everything. Every mistake, every complaint, every warning. I want a file so airtight that when the time comes, there's no question. When the time comes. You'll know, I said. I hung up. Then I opened the file on George Brennan. Edward called me 3 days before the wedding. We finished the investigation, he said. And The complaint is substantiated. 3 witnesses confirmed the behavior. We're terminating him effective immediately. I closed my eyes. How did he react? He threatened to sue. Said it was all lies, that the employee was vindictive, that he's been with the company for 15 years and we're making a mistake. And I told him if he pursued legal action, we'd be happy to present the witness statements in court. He backed down. Good. Thank you, Edward. Jennifer, he said carefully. I don't know what's going on with your family situation, but if you need anything. I know, I said. Thank you. I hung up and stared at the wall. Derek's wedding was in 3 days. I still hadn't been uninvited, but I hadn't been invited back either. I decided to go anyway. The wedding was at a vineyard 2 hours outside the city. It was beautiful, rolling hills, string lights, a ceremony at sunset. I wore a simple dress and a new wig. I sat in the back. Cassidy looked stunning. Derek looked happy. I watched them say their vows, and I felt nothing. At the reception, I sat at a table with distant cousins I hadn't seen in years. Cassidy's parents were at the head table. George was laughing loudly, telling stories, playing the proud father. I waited. Halfway through dinner, Cassidy stood up to give a speech. She thanked everyone for coming. She talked about how much she loved Derek, how lucky she was, how excited she was to start their life together. Then she looked at me. And I want to thank Derek's sister, Jennifer, for being here tonight, she said, her voice sweet. I know things have been hard for her lately, and it means a lot that she made the effort. People clapped politely. I didn't move. Derek was looking at me. I couldn't read his expression. Cassidy sat down, smiling. I stood up. I walked to the microphone. Can I say something? I asked. Cassidy's smile faltered. Oh, sure. I took the microphone. Thank you, I said. I'll be brief. I looked out at the crowd. 150 people. Family. Friends. Colleagues. My name is Jennifer Caruso, I said. Most of you know me as Derek's sister. Some of you know I've been sick. What you don't know is that I own a company called Costello Holdings Group. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you haven't. I paused. Costello Holdings owns 12 subsidiaries. One of them is Skyline Realty Group, where Cassidy works. Another is Apex Auto Group, where George Brennan, Cassidy's father, worked. Past tense. As of 3 days ago, George was terminated for sexual harassment. The room went silent. George stood up. That's a lie. It's not, I said calmly. There were 3 witnesses. The complaint was substantiated. You were given the option to resign. You refused. So you were fired. Linda grabbed his arm. He sat down. I turned to Cassidy. As for you, I said, I've spent the last month reviewing your work at Skyline. You've been formally warned 4 times. You've cost the company over $30,000 in settlements and lost deals. And as of Monday, you'll be placed on a performance improvement plan. If you don't meet the benchmarks, you'll be let go. Cassidy's face went white. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Because you kicked open a bathroom door and recorded me while I was sick, I said. Because you told my brother I was ruining your engagement party. Because you posted that video online and humiliated me. And because when I tried to move past it, you kept going. I looked at Derek. I'm sorry, I said. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I couldn't let you marry someone who treats people like this without knowing the truth. I handed the microphone back to Cassidy and walked out. Derek called me 2 hours later. What the hell was that? He said. The truth. You humiliated her. You humiliated me. I told you who she is. No, he said. You decided you didn't like her, and you sabotaged her career to prove a point. Derek! Don't. Just don't. I don't want to talk to you right now. He hung up. I sat on my couch and stared at my phone. And for the first time in months, I cried. The next morning, Diane called. You're trending on Twitter, she said. What? Someone at the wedding recorded your speech. It's everywhere. People are calling you a hero. I opened my laptop. She was right. The video had been viewed 2 million times. The comments were split. Half the people were cheering me on. The other half were calling me petty, vindictive, cruel. I didn't care about either side. I just wanted my brother back. He didn't call. A week passed. Then 2. I went back to treatment. The cancer was responding. My oncologist said I was in partial remission. I should have been happy. I just felt empty. Then, 3 weeks after the wedding, someone knocked on my door. It was Derek. He looked terrible. Tired. Thin. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. We sat in the living room. He didn't say anything for a long time. "She left me," he finally said. I looked at him. 2 days after the wedding. "She said I should have defended her. That you ruined everything. That she couldn't be with someone whose family didn't respect her." "I'm sorry," I said. "Are you?" I thought about it. "No." He nodded slowly. "I talked to her supervisor at Skyline," he said. "I asked if what you said was true. She showed me the file. I waited. I didn't know," he said. "I didn't know any of it." "I know. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me," I said. "You would have thought I was just trying to ruin your happiness." He looked at me. His eyes were red. "I'm sorry," he said, "for the engagement party, for telling you to leave, for not believing you when you said you were sick. For all of it." I reached over and took his hand. "It's okay," I said. "It's not. It will be." We sat there for a long time. Cassidy failed her performance improvement plan. She was let go 6 weeks later. George tried to sue Apex for wrongful termination. His case was dismissed. Derek and I started having dinner every week. He didn't talk about Cassidy. I didn't ask. My cancer went into full remission 4 months later. I'm still running Costello Holdings. I've acquired 2 more companies since then. I don't go to weddings anymore. But I do go to Derek's apartment every Sunday. We cook together. We talk. We're rebuilding. People ask me if I regret what I did, if I think I went too far. I don't. Because the truth is, I didn't ruin Cassidy's life. I just stopped pretending she hadn't tried to ruin mine. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd let it go. I didn't. And somewhere in that decision, in that moment of standing up and speaking the truth, I found something I'd lost. I found my voice, and I'm not giving it back. If you made it to the end, thank you for listening to my story. It means more than you know. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up to someone who underestimated you? I'd love to hear your story. And if you want more stories like this one, let me know what you'd like to hear next. I'll see you in the next one.